What's up, everybody? This is Brian Maxey. So for a long time, I did speaking on corporate entities and some other topics, but one of my absolute expert specialties, if you will, was talking about corporate structuring, how they work, how you can use them to save in taxes and save your ass from liability and things like that, and how to properly structure entire organizations using management companies and different things like that. With that said, one of the things that I have noticed, and it doesn't matter what state you live in, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, one thing that is pretty much common throughout everything is that nobody knows what the fuck they're talking about. Nobody knows what corporate entities really truly are, how they're formed, or how they can be used. And so people are starting entities based on whatever information they're able to get from a CPA, attorney, whoever, and then they forget what the fuck they just did. They just don't know. So this video is going to be for the 3 corporate entities that you need to worry about. There are a bunch more, but you don't need to know about those right now. We're going to talk about the 3 main categories, and then at the end I'll do a little disclosure that's super important as well. Okay, so number 1, if you decide to start a business, if you write that down, if you think about it, whatever the case may be, if you make the decision that you are going to produce some sort of service or product in exchange for money, you are now officially a sole proprietorship. Okay? It doesn't take a filing with the Secretary of State. It simply is a decision to do business. If that decision is made with 2 or more people, you are now officially a partnership. So that's it. You can file paperwork with the Secretary of State in order to reserve your name. Make sure no one else is using that name, and then reserve the name so nobody else can do business as that same name. But there is no actual physical entity or separate entity created that separates the business from the ownership. Okay, so a sole proprietorship, a partnership, is literally just the idea of conducting a business. It is not a separate entity. Moving along to number 2, you have the world famous C Corporation. A C Corporation is a separate entity from its owners, meaning it's got a name and social security number and date of birth and address and all of these things just like a human being would. All right, obviously they're not called those. We'll do that in another video. But it technically does have all of those same pieces of information. As long as you are not committing fraud, right, which pierces the corporate veil, Google it if you're not familiar, but as long as you're not committing fraud, this entity is going to be separate from the owners in taxes, in liability, in credit, and all of these items, okay? It is a legally separate entity. So that is one of the reasons why people use it so frequently, which leads us to the 3rd option. Number 3 is an LLC, a limited liability company, right? Limited liability companies, a lot of people they get this one wrong. It's been in existence for 30 years and they still think like, oh, that's only for, when you have companies that aren't making money or something like that. That's not true. That's not true at all. There's actually some enormous corporations that you all know, companies like Pixar and things like that, that use LLCs instead of C corporations. And there's some additional flexibility with an LLC than with a C corporation. Again, separate video. What you need to know right now is this. LLCs are also separate, legally separate entities, just like C corporations. All right? Completely separated from its owners when set up in that format. What makes them kind of hard to understand for a lot of people is that they're so easily flexible into the tax brackets of being able to be a corporation or taxed at the personal level. A lot of you know is pass-through taxation, right? It's got this flexibility about it. Well, that's not a default setting. LLCs are absolutely 100% able to be structured the same way as a C corporation and has all of the same liability protections and the ability to gain credit and all these other things. Some people like to see ink at the back of a name. Some people don't give a shit. So that's something you'll have to determine. But those three are your options. If you want protection and you want tax breaks and all of those things, you have to be either a C corporation or an LLC. Those are your options, okay? But that leads us to the final thing that I want to talk about. A lot of people, if you ask them, what kind of corporate entity do you have? Their response, and I used to do this all the time in my speaking, I would say, who here has an S corporation? And at least 60% of the people in there would be like, oh, I do. And then I would break their bubble and be like, well, I hate to tell you, S corporations do not exist. There's no such thing as an S corporation. I promise you, no Secretary of State can offer an entity called an S corporation. What an S corporation is, anytime you set up a C corporation or an LLC, you have the ability to file with the IRS a paper. It's Form 2553, okay? It is passed through taxation. It's called a subchapter S. So a C corporation or an LLC, either one, can file this subchapter S and have passed through taxation. So if you don't want to pay 21% taxes with the corporation, you can pay 15% at the personal level or whatever it is. It depends on your income. Your income level is below a certain amount, you're going to save money with pass-through taxation. Well, when you do that and you file a subchapter S, all of a sudden they kind of coin this term S corporation because you are a corporate entity using a subchapter S. But it's very, very important to know that there is no such entity actually called an S corporation. If you are an S corporation, if that's what your attorney or your CPA told you, they're probably not lying to you. They probably just know that you're an idiot and you don't, like everyone else, don't have no fucking clue what it is that these corporations are actually used for. So they're just giving you a terminology that doesn't really actually exist. It's just kind of a made up thing. All it means is that you are set up as a C corporation or LLC, but you currently have passed through taxation. Once your income levels get up higher, then at some point it'll be more advantageous to file as a corporate entity and pay taxes that way. I hope this helps. It is a very, very, very complicated subject that this particular speech, if I was doing, would probably last about an hour. I'm trying to do it in under 10 minutes. So I hope this helps, all right? And I'll do some other videos that take it a little bit further. Hey, in the meantime, if you need a little more information, I have written an ebook. Check it out. I did a corporate entities ebook and then an advanced corporate entities ebook. So those are floating around somewhere on the fucking internet. Go find them and read them. It's good shit, all right? Till next time.